Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Voices of Angst. We've been away for a couple of weeks, but we're back, all four of us, for another show. I'm Chris.
I'm Liam.
I'm
I'm
Mikhail.
Amber.
Oh, sorry.
And that was Mikhail and Amber.
We're both here this time.
Alrighty, so, who wants... Mikhail, let's pass it over to you to introduce our topic this week.
Oh, crap. Yeah, our topic is daylight savings, and... yeah, I just want to kind of get a sense, okay, like, what is the consensus with everyone? Because I do have a sense that maybe there's a bias within our particular group.
I kind of like the extra hour of sleep we got out of the whole, daylight savings thing. Is a fallback.
But what are you going to be saying when the next
spring.
one comes around and we have to spring forward?
No.
Yeah, I think Amber pretty much summarized it. No.
Interesting fact here that Saskatchewan, the province of Saskatchewan, does not do daylight savings time. And I often think that's the way we should be doing things.
Why don't they do daylight savings?
Because they're awesome, and they're a rectangle. Nature's most basic shape.
I'd argue that, but I really don't see the point.
Argue what? What point?
Exactly.
Okay, so...
I don't really have a point that I'd be trying to make out of that.
Well, it's just Chris made several. He's like, rectangle, nature's most basic shape, and then all these little things. And
Yeah, I dispute the whole, basic shape thing behind rectangles, but that's not really...
well, the Greeks
Yeah.
were obsessed with squares and circles and...
triangles.
Yep.
Pythagoras.
And geometry.
Pythagoras.
And then there's a hexagram and a pentagon and an octagon and all those shapes. Anyway.
Well,
yeah.
we got off topic
A
fast.
little bit.
Well, I'm bringing it back to daylight savings, guys, so bear the frigging heck with me.
Oh yes, and this is an important time where I should also note that on this episode we're going to try and get through the whole episode without Mikhail dropping an F-bomb. We're going to see if we can make it. Sorry, what was that?
Or the rest of us.
Or
none
the
of
rest
us
of us.
supposed to be swearing
But
here.
Mikhail's the one who seems to do it the most.
Yes.
I just all say what you're all thinking when it comes to the F-bombs, because we're all thinking...
You do drive us to swear, Mikhail. This is true.
I am just the catalysm of all curse words.
Okay, anyway, back to daylight savings time.
Russia dropped it how many years ago?
It was in recent memory.
Yes, I can
Here's my
honestly-
only question: like, why did they drop it? Like, what
because
does it
people
possibly
got
cost?
depressed. They did studies and they found people got depressed.
Another interesting factoid from the desk of Chris. I was watching on the news yesterday that, unsurprisingly, car accidents around daylight savings time, both changes forward and back, tends to increase exponentially according to ICBC. So
It's because people start being late for things, and they're all
and
like,
tired
"Oh
and
no!"
groggy and everything else. So I mean
Yeah,
that's
that
another
too.
reason for abolishing it, and probably a reason that factored into the Russian government's decision to not endorse it.
And
So are we saying Russia made a good decision?
Yeah.
most
kind of
of
an
us,
interesting thought.
except for indecisive Liam.
But I
What do
mean,
you mean? I don't care.
I think it's one of those things that's sort of outdated because it made sense when you were farming and you needed to do things in a certain time and when there was light. And it just, it sort of made sense. And now it just doesn't because everything's artificially lit anyways.
Exactly, like you raised
Wasn't
a
it
good
a
point,
decision
Amber.
made by the church?
I have no idea.
No,
My
like,
mom always said it
but
had to do with
Amber does
farms.
raise a good point with the artificial lighting because look at how many people stay up late versus
Yeah, the time
how
change
many
doesn't really
decades
make a
ago
difference.
before we had all these electronics and lights and computers and televisions.
Well, we didn't.
Yeah, like we went to bed probably around 8 o'clock as soon as it got dark because well, I mean, you could stay up, play card games by candlelight or read books or play something on a guitar or piano, but I mean, yeah, like
Yeah,
I mean,
it just
we're
made
becoming
sense.
more of a night owl society, and it's in part to do with electronics. So this kind of need for daylight savings times, kind of like, well, I mean, do we really need it now within this time point where we have artificial lighting to begin with? I mean, look at the whole thing with fluorescent lights. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get too off topic. but-
Interesting note here, though, that wasn't it just a couple of years ago that the U.S. expanded daylight savings time to last longer?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Yeah, that was a couple
Yeah,
of
I think
years
there
ago.
was more
because,
frequent changes too. Yeah.
Well, no, the daylight savings time portion was expanded to last like an extra, I think it was a month or something longer, so it starts earlier and ends later. And the reason they did that is supposedly because it saves energy. And I'm not 100% sure how it ends up saving energy.
I don't think it does.
Yeah.
To be perfectly
Well, if you're
honest.
waking up to go to work in the dark, you turn on. Well, you still turn on lights in the morning, but if you wake up, you're not as likely to turn on all the lights. If you wake up and it's pitch black out, you're going to turn on your lights.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which makes sense, but then you've got to think at the end of the day, when you get home, it's going to be dark, and you're going to turn on your lights an hour earlier.
That's true, but I guess they're expecting people to go to bed because our schedules are just such a mess.
Well, and
Like,
depending on
getting
what
people
profession
up
you
to
work,
go to
yeah.
work early and come to bed late, it just doesn't entirely make sense the way we schedule our lives. We schedule it around daylight, and now we have artificial light anyways.
And that's giving us health consequences too, because then we have people who become, I don't know, they
Now,
throw their
Mikhail,
whack
tell
out
us how
of
you
sleep.
really feel.
Oh, no.
That's gonna be like a 2-hour long episode special in itself.
Stay tuned for that later on. When we take another 4-week hiatus.
Yeah,
We'll just have Mikhail for 4 weeks.
that would be terrifying.
I'm not going to dispute that fact.
Yeah.
Make good money, but it would be terrifying.
I guess my real question here, though, is daylight savings really damaging us? Like, in the grand scheme of things.
Well, if I'm
Apparently
tired and I
car
get in a car
accidents.
accident and I kill 5
Yeah.
people, then yes, it's damaging people.
yes.
I
But
mean,
is it-
you could also
oh.
look at it from a biological perspective. I mean, we do have internal body clocks. And I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
like Chris was saying earlier, like, I mean, the most professional way of doing that is to slowly increment it by 15
You're stealing
minutes.
my thunder, Mikhail. I
Yeah,
was
well,
going to
I'm
mention that.
citing you.
I
I'm
was
saying,
going to
Chris,
mention that. You're stealing my thunder.
well, your
Now
thunder
shut up.
kind of
Now I'm
died
gonna
out.
say it.
No,
I
but
read-
like, I mean,
I
biologically...
read online once the best way of getting adjusted to daylight savings time is a week beforehand to start adjusting your sleep schedule by 15 minutes, and then you do that for 2 days, and then you adjust it by another 15 minutes, and do that for another 2 days, and so on and so forth until you get right up until the actual time change, and then it doesn't seem so bad. Thank you, Mikhail, for making me pull that one out of my hat early.
Okay. And yeah, instead most of us end up completely forgetting about daylight savings until the last minute, and they're like, oh
Yep.
shit, gotta change the clock. So then suddenly we're having to make this drastic change. Even though it's just an hour, it still throws off our body clocks because we've established a routine for how many months?
I
Usually,
guess
not
I'm
all
sort of
the time.
readjusting that
Sometimes,
still, and I hadn't really noticed.
Yeah. Well, for me, I usually work at 2 in the afternoon. The day daylight savings time started, I was scheduled to work at 8 a.m. instead of 2 in the afternoon. So it just messed me up completely. It was awful.
Everyone stand by for 30 seconds while I blow my nose.
All right, standing by. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
I think that
3.
should introduce
Okay.
the song
Can
of
I
the
ask a
week with
question
that
about
kind of
that
trumpet.
Okay,
quickly?
we're
The
good to go.
Mississippi thing. That Mississippi thing, does it actually cover an entire second? Like, is anybody
It's
Depends how
time
fast you
theoretically
say
it's
Mississippi.
supposed to, yes.
Huh.
Depends how,
It's a good rough
how fast you say
estimate.
Mississippi.
Yeah, Ember raises a valid point.
I mean, it's the same as counting slowly. You can count slow, or you can't count fast, or you can say Mississippi or Mississippi.
True.
Quick, everyone pull
So
out their
s-
stopwatches.
I don't wanna.
No.
I don't know where mine is anyway.
I don't
Quick, everyone
have
pull out
one.
their smartphones.
I don't
Mine's on
have
the
that
floor.
either.
Mikhail, get with the times. This is the 21st century. Everybody and their dog has an iPhone.
I got a
What dogs
Blackberry.
have iPhones?
It wouldn't surprise me.
I'm
No.
pretty sure there's a
I'm living
website
in the
series
wrong
called Text
century.
with
My
Dog.
professor
Yeah,
was
Text from
right.
Text from Dog, it's a thing. It's great.
It's definitely, yep.
It's the funniest thing I've ever read.
Text from Bennett's also pretty great.
Okay,
No.
apparently those two are having a conversation. Anyway. Yeah, but I think, like, there's definitely, like, even though, yes, you can browse on the internet and look on, God forbid, Wikipedia, they say, like, oh, there's been studies, you know, that does suggest there has been some health implications related to daylight savings time, you know. And, I mean, there's also that notion of jet lag, too. I mean, jet lag really screws people over, especially if you're hopping over from, like, say, like, I don't know, Victoria, BC to over, like, Frankfurt, Germany. I mean, there's a 9 hours difference. I mean, that's going to do some major damage for a few weeks until you're getting adjusted. So,
Well, that goes without saying.
so I mean,
The thing I'm basically getting at with this one, though, is that, my thought is we have to readjust anyways. And if we just get into the habit of doing it, I think our bodies might just adjust to the fact they have to readjust. It's kind of like an evolution thing. You know?
that made
Maybe
no
the human
sense.
body... No, maybe the human body is meant to screw itself up by constantly changing time so that it can evolve to eventually not need time.
Well, do you keep telling yourself that every night, Liam? Because
Not even remotely.
In a far distant future, a world without time is born.
I mean, you have to
Yeah.
look at it. Time is a fundamental concept, but the thing is we seem to think, oh, that time doesn't make that much of an impact. Well, yeah, it does. Your molecules are moving at a certain speed of rate that is easily calculated by time.
Which, interestingly, yes, what is a second defined as? I can't remember offhand, but it is to do with molecular movement.
Like nanosecond, which is probably do something at the speed of nanites at a certain distance or whatever. Anyway,
that's a little off
we're no
topic.
mathematicians. Maybe Chris is the closest thing we have, but he's more of a
I
tech
work
person.
in IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
No.
We had to do that in the coffee shop with the espresso machine all the time. That was the only way to fix it. Just turn it off and on again. Okay.
Reboot.
Yep.
Yeah, but time is a fundamental concept, and I mean the thing is with daylight savings, it's set around a certain cultural standard that you could say is productivity or consumerism or capitalism or communism. I don't know. It's set around this idea of a work ethic. I know workers, we have to be at a certain time and keep things within a certain schedule, otherwise things won't get done, kind of thing. And the thing is Liam, you're probably right, and our bodies will naturally get used to it. But the thing is it kind of does that in terms of the year anyway. I mean, look at the Inuits. They have, their whole culture set around that. So I'm pretty sure, it can exist. And there is a way of, you can learn how to live with the lessening of light or the increasing of daylight or whatever, what have you. But, I mean, it's just daylight savings. It's just kind of something that's artificially enforced over something that would naturally work itself out. But we still have not evolved culturally, thinking-wise, in finding a way to reconcile what is naturally could work versus what is, what are our priorities in life.
This just
Well, I
in.
never saw
Tune
it.
in next week for Mikhail's list of isms.
Yes, the whole Mikhailism.
Anyway,
Mikhailism.
I'm trolling.
Yes.
Anyways,
You're a nice troller. You're like those little, whatever, I don't know.
You were saying, Liam?
I don't even remember. Mikhail started talking, and I just sort of stopped
Zoned
thinking.
Yep. I
Yeah,
take people
sort
out.
of spaced out around that point.
I think it's time for Song of the Week. Anyone else?
Well, we're not. Hang on. Are we really there yet?
No, I'm just taking it there.
But if people
You're
still
really
have
in
things
some
to
sort of
say,
rush, aren't you?
you are not directing the conversation, sir.
I know,
No, you're
but I
not
seem to be
supposed to be directing
contributing
this
a lot,
conversation.
and you guys seem to be passively just zoning out or either, yeah.
Dude, you start talking sometimes. Can you really blame me for just sort of?
No, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying, I mean, you guys could have, I don't know.
Okay, so moving back on topic or off
Maybe
topic,
my
but
maybe
not
my
Mikhail
dominance
talking.
Remember what I
requires
was gonna
some
say?
aggression
I remember
on
what I
your
was gonna
guys'
say.
part.
Hey! I remember what I was gonna say, and it's important, so everybody shut up and listen. Okay, so I always saw daylight save. Why would you do that?
Keep talking.
Daylight savings, I always saw as a way of actually, literally saving daylight for us. I never thought it had anything to do with the work ethic. I just thought it had something to do with how much daylight we have. Like you were saying with the whole Inuit cultures and stuff like that they actually follow the daylight adjustments. I thought daylight savings time was meant to do the same.
It is, but it's
I feel like it could be necessary for that purpose because we want to take advantage of the daylight because in daylight humans are more inclined to do things.
Well, I think that
And
was,
we have a hard enough doing
that
things
was
anyways.
the initial idea, I think.
Yeah, it's like I said in the very beginning, like with the farming, is it had to be on schedule with like deliveries and pickups for city life, which runs on a clock. But farms have to run on sunlight, daylight, so that's where that connection came in, where the clocks had to line up with what was happening outside.
So would that not technically make it kind of important to our regular cultures too?
To an
But with the decrease in
but-
farming and the increase in artificial light and the way things don't necessarily happen on a outdoor visual, it is changing, but it still makes sense to some extent.
Yeah, and
Like
it also
maybe-
depends on where you geographically live too. I mean,
That's
there's,
true.
You know, I think the problem is,
If you live in Saskatchewan, you don't change your clocks.
yeah, like which
Which
you
is
know, and
interesting,
they're a
'cause that's a farming
heavily
place.
farming community. They're like that's most of their well, it's not most, but it's one of their primary industries. You know, one of the many. You know,
So what do we determine here? That daylight savings is bad or good?
I think it does not have.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Let's just I'll just say with Chris. It seems to me like it has more cons than pros. So like I mean you know like I think someone invented a term of something doesn't have too many cons or pros. It's a prong or whatever. But like yeah, it just seems like there's a lot more negative aspects to daylight savings than what there really ought to be. It's like we're not getting our bang for our buck, so to speak. It seems like with that.
And remember, folks, if you disagree with us, please feel free to post in the comments.
Yeah, please post in the comments. Getting very boring not reading any comments.
Exactly. Like you'd think there'd be a lot of people commenting, especially with my outrageous spoken opinions, that people would be like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" And
Maybe
be
we
like,
just need to let
you know.
Mikhail go for an episode and just bring in the viewers.
enough of it.
Or
Why don't we
listeners,
do an
I guess.
Episode on swearing.
Yeah, no bars
Tune in
held.
and learn some new swear words every week on the Voices of Angst.
And in other
Not entirely
languages
what
as
I
well.
meant. I meant on the cultural stigmatism around it, but okay.
Aish.
Okay. With
Cultural
that,
stigmatism? No, I am not. Blech. I can't be
this is
held
not
responsible
this
for
is
that.
not how to learn Chinese in CBA News.
Yeah, Liam.
Wow,
No.
that happened. That was a fun episode.
It was.
Anyways.
It was the first episode I was
By the
in.
way, those of you listening who have not already seen the CBA News Halloween episode should check it out. inetonline.ca.
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm gonna fix this. Anyways,
Okay,
I think it's time for us to move on to songs of the week. Because we are actually not talking about daylight savings anymore at all.
Yeah, it was kind of a. It wasn't a big oomph topic, but we didn't really decide on a topic, so I just thought, oh, why not talk about this? So
I think last week's topic, had we actually managed to do an episode, would have been good. Kids and Halloween and how they go trick or treating in the malls, but maybe we'll have to leave.
I
that one
only
for
had
next
10
year.
kids. I only had 10
Aw.
kids. I was sorely disappointed. And then
Oh god,
I'm-
what have I done?
No, this is a funny story because I gave okay, I'm not getting a lot of kids, so I give them like 3 candies. And so, which I probably could have given more now that I look back on it. Anyway, I go to this kid's going, and I go to give him like another piece of candy, and I'm like, here, you want another one? And he's like, no, thank you. And I'm like, what kid turns down candy? Like,
I went with a
really?
bunch of kids who turned down candy when we got offered more.
Like, what is wrong
It was
with
so
Victoria
weird.
children? Like, I'm sorry I'm being biased here, but I find, like, people in Victoria, like, I don't know, I find I've encountered more helicopter parents. I don't know. It's like, I just think, like, out in, like, Winnipeg and other places where I lived, trick-or-treating was a little bit more proactive amongst kids. You know, you did have people who, like, take people's candy and stuff, but, you still, like, I don't know, kids there had kind of the gazonads to, like, go out and do trick-or-treating, whereas, like, I find in Victoria, it's like, I don't know, it's like, the grandparents are so interfering that they're like, oh no, you shouldn't do that. We don't want our dear grandchildren getting, attacked or something in trick-or-treating. So then it's like, they all bugger off to, like, these exclusive neighborhoods with their friends.
Pro tip: Langford apparently has lots of trick or treaters. There was one
Bear
house that
Mountain
had,
is
like,
great.
in the excess of 250. So, anyway, that's another topic for another day, I think, or another year, as the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's wait a little longer on that one.
Well,
See what happens next
yeah,
year, Mikhail. Maybe
it'll
you'll be busy.
just under a year.
So, moving on to Song of the Week. And Mikhail, I think you said you had a pick.
I did. I had a definite pick. I discovered Bajork, which is, I don't know, I guess she would be an electronic alternative artist. I don't know, it's hard to genreize people. I don't like doing it. Anyway, the song that really struck me is All Is Love. And to my disappointment, when I found the album on YouTube, it wasn't the version on the. It's not the version on the album that they have, but apparently it's the original version. So there is a music video of it. So we'll attach a link to that video, and yeah, here's the song.
You be given love. You'll be taken care of. You'll be given love. You have to trust it. Maybe not from.
Who wants to go next?
I'm still thinking.
All right. You want to go?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay, Amber's gonna go.
I'm gonna pick Ways to Go by Group Love. It's just a sort of fun song on the surface, but when you actually listen to it, it's really interesting. It's sort of like, we got a ways to go, but I'm getting there. And yeah.
Been working like a dog. I turned all my dreams off. I didn't know my name. I didn't know my name. I got a little bit longer. I got a ways to go. I got a little bit longer. I got a ways to go. I got a little bit longer. I got a ways to go. Whoa, I got a ways to go.
All right. Well, I guess I will go next here, and I'm gonna go. Oh, actually, no. I just changed my mind.
Yay!
I'm going with an upbeat, rather chipper tune, composed by Handel, La Regressance from the Royal Fireworks Music, because I need to have a little bit of a happy pickup right now because I'm sick.
Aw.
And last but not least, Liam.
So, Amber and I recently planned to do this really big trip down to California in the next year or so. And we started building a giant playlist of music to take with us. And while making this, I came across a song that I'm completely shocked I haven't used yet. It's a song by a local indie band called Guilty About Girls. And it's called Candy Candy.
Candy used to sit at the front of the class. I really liked her, but I sat in the back. She was really pretty and she talked real fast. Like that, just like that. She said, follow me, I know where I'm going. I'm not messed up like all those hoes. Stay with me and all will be golden. Walk away and be broken hearted. Candy, candy. You candy, candy. She used to live at the
Alrighty, so there's a couple of sound bites there for you, and
Check them
don't forget
out.
to check out the links on our Facebook page
Especially
and
my song. Listen to the lyrics.
on our YouTube channel to take a look and listen to the full versions of the songs where available.
Everybody listen to the rest of the podcasts, too, because those matter. sometimes.
They always matter. What are you talking about?
Except apparently,
Exactly.
except when I talk.
Yes.
Ouch.
You can sort of omit those.
If
Anyways,
you're looking at a waveform diagram of the podcast, whenever Mikhail's talk is when the amplitude goes up sharply, so it's really easy to skip over those parts. Anyway,
Ouch.
I digress.
all right, guys, thanks for listening yet again to Voices of Angst. Join
Chris
us.
is sick and I am burned beyond repair.
Oh.
Amber and I are pretty good.
Yeah.
Listen for next week when we attempt to repair.
All right, y'all have a good night now.
Farewell, listeners.